Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Tom Kissack, author of Jonathan's Tales. I'm delighted today for, would you believe, three superb and joyful reasons. Firstly and foremost, my beautiful third volume of Jonathan's Tales is now published on Amazon. It is an excellent read. Go ahead, I dare you to buy a copy of this amazing book to delight a broad range of readers, children from 8 upwards, teenagers, and even adults. The latter said they immensely enjoyed the stories, those that read them. The second reason I'm jubilantly euphoric, spring has arrived in England, and I adore the warmer weather. Having said that, writing up part 5 over a few days, snow is forecast in the UK. They say never cast a clout until May is out, but spring does give me hope of balmy summer days to come. And finally, my third happiness, I'm back with you after a while in absence to continue reviewing the many idioms and phrases in the hilarious tale in Volume 2 entitled The Cactus and the Tree. I say welcome back, but there are newcomers to my private Facebook group, which showcases all the idioms I've reviewed to date. Across, would you believe now, 41 videos. Thank you for those that recently joined. Today I'm delivering part 5 of reviewing the beautiful 8th story in Volume 2, entitled The Cactus and the Tree. And specifically, we're focusing on notations 38 to 48 of 61 notes, enriching this epic and extremely entertaining story. However, before the book's notations, we must revisit three idioms arising in part 4 in my video narration. These are namely, time is flying, if push comes to shove, and ship shape and Bristol fashion. Quite interesting phrases to mull over, in my humble opinion. Slide 3 provides a full list of business we intend to do today. Let's read them out. Time is flying, if push comes to shove. Ship shape and Bristol fashion. Knee-jerk reaction, up to the brim. To take matters into one's own hands in a jiffy. A case in point, all of a piece. So the first of the trio of sayings arising in part 4 was a saying I quite adore. Time is flying, or time flies, which is used as an observation that time seems to pass very quickly. Slide 5 reviews several other illustrations of time is flying. I think often time is flying in my life. Slide 6 considers the informal saying, if push comes to shove, which is employed when one must commit oneself to an action or decision. Slide 7 gives us two new scenarios involving the somewhat deterministic phase, if push comes to shove. Slide 8 reviews the final phrase arising in part 4 video narration, namely ship shape and Bristol fashion. I love it. A nautical saying meaning something is in perfect order, tidy and well organised. And here we have two further considerations of this lovely phrase, which originated in the 18th, 19th century and refers to what was then the high standards of maritime maintenance at Bristol's port on the south coast of England, where extreme tidal conditions required ships to be securely stowed to avoid damage. Got tongue-tied. So we are now in a position to commence reviewing the idioms in the book. The first one is note 38, knee-jerk reaction. Readers familiar with my modus operandi on these videos will anticipate that we first turn to read the relevant passage in the book, to get a real-world context for the saying. Incidentally, the phrase modus operandi is a Latin phrase that was explained in the introductory video 3. Excuse me. Picking up the book storyline to review note 38, we also pass by note 39, up to the brim, and note 40, to take matters into one's own hands. So, to the book's text. Given this open acknowledgement from Needles, both cacti subsequently thought, in quiet reflection, that they might, in fact, be themselves the intruders, not the oak tree. But how has this happened? Confounded them both. The second of the now obvious intruders, Spike, reacted characteristically different to his friend, to this new intelligence, and might we say, without prior thought, better described as a knee-jerk reaction, and in total consistency with his personality to date. We must, readers, before we continue our story, briefly reflect upon this strange scene, and especially poor Spike. His basic personality was ill-equipped emotionally to cope with sudden change, having spent all his life rooted to one spot. Today's onset of events came rather too quickly for him to assimilate. He had had quite enough and was up to the brim with high stress. Unable to manage anything beyond the ordinary, and intruders were in his mind definitely not ordinary, he just took the matter into his own hands. It doesn't matter anyway, where or who or what came from where or who or what. I, Spike, for one, don't like this tree. I'm sorting this out now. Bang, 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 shot a fusillade of sharp needles from Spike's ample armoury, smashing straight into the oak bark, piercing it cleanly, a legion of spikes lodging deep within the oak. The oak cried out again in heartfelt pain. The next scene sets a well-deserved moral comeuppance to our rather cavalier and pugilistic Spike. But for now, a review of note 38, knee-jerk reaction, is explained in the book's glossary at the book's end as reactions triggered by our gut feelings. If our gut feeling is that a certain action or activity represents a threat to us, our knee-jerk reaction might be to respond with high emotion. Knee-jerk reactions are based on the emotions we feel in response to current events. Excuse me. Slide 11 introduces two other examples of this interesting phrase. Have you ever had a knee-jerk reaction to some stimuli? I so like this phrase, I'm encouraged to explore its origins. The phrase knee-jerk reaction originates from the reflex action of the knee-jerk response, which is a physical phenomenon observed during a medical exam. When the doctor taps the patella tendon just below the kneecap and the leg involuntarily kicks forward, this automatic response is often quick and unthinking, much like how a knee-jerk reaction describes an instinctual, impulsive response to a situation without careful consideration or thought. The next notation we covered in the storytelling above was note 39, up to the brim. In the story, Spike was up to his brim with things happening. The book explains this simply as being completely full. Here are two other examples providing a figurative interpretation of people having had enough of events, just like Spike in the story. The final note covered in the last reading of the text was note 40, to take matters into one's own hands, described in the book's glossary as to take control of something. Slide 15 furnishes the reader with two other excellent illustrations to take matters into one's own hands. The next notation in the book is note 41, in a jiffy, a rather strange and perhaps old-fashioned idiom. Let us read this saying in the context of the book's narrative first, and in so doing we pass by note 42, to maintain or keep the upper hand, which we can actually pass by literally, as we reviewed this phrase in the Orange and the Grapefruit video 4. So to the storyline. Suddenly an unseen voice in the tree shouted, "Oi! Oi! Oi! That's my friend Alki! What are you doing?" The two cacti and a scorpion looked up and searched the tree to no avail. Then something moved in the tree. It looked like the bottom of some strange animal turning towards them. And then the bottom fired so many sharp spikes at the two cacti that poor Spike toppled over, only to quickly spring up, righting himself in a jiffy. "Ouch!" shrieked Spike, looking at his friends. "What was that? It's not fair. That tree has an army of cacti living in it." "No, I haven't," said the oak tree snootily, observing the satisfactory handiwork of his friend, and sensing he now had the upper hand. "I've actually got a porcupine with me, a close and resident friend, and one I'm grateful for in times of trouble. And you, Spike, well, let's talk in the plural. You, my spiky friends, I guess I might confidently describe as ushering in such a time of trouble. That is." "A porcupine? What's a porcupine?" retorted Spike, spitting out the words in vain, attempting at retrieving an aggressive upper hand. "The porcupine is my very own war machine," declared the oak tree triumphantly, before adding, "and he can fire needles just like you can, Spike, but in volleys, much in superiority, numerically speaking." "Oh!" exclaimed Spike. "Okay, we surrender," declared Needles, once again intervening, noting the oak tree's use of his friend's namesake, and musing this was an attempt at reconciliation. Note 41 in a jiffy is explained at the book's end that if you say that you will do something in a jiffy, you mean that you'll do it very quickly or very soon. Slide 17 returns two more examples of in a jiffy. Excuse me. And I was chomping at the bit to research its origins. The phrase is believed to have originated in the early 19th century. One theory suggests that jiffy may come from the word giffy, a term used in the 1850s related to making something quickly. The use of jiffy in this context became popular in conversation and literature, eventually solidifying its meaning as very quickly or in a moment. Its playful sound and brevity likely contributed to its continued use in everyday language. I love my English language etymology. We now return to the next notations in the book. However, the chapter following the last that we read features three notations which are not actually sayings, and so we might leap past them with just a brief reference. Note 43, tectonic plates. Note 44, the equator. And note 45, the northern hemisphere. To see them in context and explanation, you would need to have the book on hand. But before I proceed to note 46, a case in point, these latter three notations do serve as an excellent illustration to the reader that Jonathan's Tales is multifaceted in the knowledge it imparts to the reader. So to the text, which encompasses note 46, a case in point. And by reading this text, we also pass note 47, a snippet of fact on glacial formation and the English Channel, which, as it's a fact, we will jump past, and note 48, all of a piece. Onwards to the story. Scorpio smiled, noting his friend's utter frustration and lack of grasp of what he was telling him. He began to speak in slow, emphatic, and what he hoped were reassuring tones. It happens every few thousand years. Scorpio then paused and looked around for some inspiration to help him explain his point before continuing. Okay, how about this? Do you know England was thousands of years ago joined to Europe? There was no English Channel, no water between England and the European continent. That's what happens over time. Suddenly, the tectonic plates change, and it's happening now. Well, England itself is a different case in point, more to do with changing sea pattern and the movement of glaciers. But it's all one of the same piece. Things do change geologically speaking, and it is a fact England was at one time joined to Europe, and now it's not. The book's glossary explains note 46, a case in point, as an instant or example that illustrates what is being discussed. Slide 19 offers two additional portrayals of the saying, a case in point. The final piece of business today is note 48, all of a piece, described at the book's end. That if something is all of a piece or of a piece with something else, it has the same character and features. Slide 21 furnishes two different scenarios illustrating the phrase all of a piece. On that final notation, I will close for today. We must, however, pat ourselves on the back, as we did make some excellent progress reviewing the 61 idioms featured in the beautiful story, The Cactus and the Tree. In part 6, we'll look at some quite amazing idioms, starting with note 49, going in one ear and out the other. Note 50, to take the bull by the horns. And note 51, to shoot the messenger, to give you a prelude of the goodies that we'll enjoy next time. We did, however, in the video narration introduce a few new sayings. Never cast a clout until May is out, chomping at the bit, and to pat oneself on the back, which will be the first points of business in part 6. Until then, I wish you all a beautiful March. And being a Piscean, this current month is also a celebration of my birth month. Goodbye until part 6, my friends.